Happy Friday everyone, I'm Julian and this is Libby and this is Featured Game Friday, and today the game we are featuring is the beautiful Petrichor. Now we ever looked in the clouds and thought, oh, that would make a good board game? Well, funnily enough, that's exactly what Petrichor is. So in this game, it's very much a game of two phases. In the first phase, you are laying down cards from your hand to activate certain weather conditions. If you lay a frost card, you get to produce a cloud on an existing field and put one of your raindrops in it. If you play a sun, you get to add 2 more raindrops to a cloud where you've got presents. If you play a wind card, you get to move a cloud around the board. And if you play a rain card, you get to move one of your droplets from a cloud to the ground below.
What you're trying to do is to meet the conditions of all the cards below, and they have different elements, different numbers of raindrops they need to have on them. Some of them are a little bit harder to do, like the coffee and the rice, ones like that. They have kind of like a 2-phase, but they all have different criteria of the number of raindrops they need on them before they're going to activate in a harvest. Now the harvests happen at the end of the round, so once you've played all of those cards and you've got to the end, you've also in between done some voting, and you're voting for either the weather condition that you have been playing at that point in time, or one adjacent to that, or you can vote for a harvest and make the harvests come quicker. So it can be quite strategic in terms of what you're choosing to vote for, because only 2 of the weather conditions will activate at the end of each round. These tend to be bigger, brighter, boosted versions of some of the card play you've seen earlier. So for example, the sun, if you were to play that one and that was to win the votes, then basically you're able to double the number of raindrops in a cloud, which might mean that the clouds will merge or it will thunder, all sorts of other things will happen. But it is quite a strategic play to do some of these big weather conditions and see how that is going to affect the board. And as I already said, you could also vote for a harvest and be able to turn the dice over another notch closer to being able to do that. And the timing that you do these different things to enable you to either get your tile that you're looking at into a position where you're going to be able to gain points from a harvest, or and activate that harvest so it comes at a time that suits you before somebody else has managed to spoil your plans, is quite a nice little plan and lots of little things to think about in this one.
Yeah, and this game looks really great on the table. It's got a fantastic kind of table presence. As you're moving these clouds around, it really does look quite striking. And it's great that there's games that kind of explore different ideas. You know, we all get a bit bored of train games and fantasy games and space games, and I've never seen a game that deals with clouds before. So it's interesting to kind of approach that. It's in a sense a very kind of abstract game in the way you're manipulating things, and as Libby said, the way you do choose to play your cards, or the events you choose to encourage to happen by the vote, does have many different layers in which you need to think about. Obviously in a 2-player game you're working out what's your opponent trying to do and how can I stop them achieving that. In a bigger player count it becomes much more frantic as everyone else is trying to achieve certain things, and then you obviously have a much bigger board as well in the bigger player count, so you have a bit more clouds to deal with, because whenever you move a cloud it can combine with another cloud that's adjacent, and then your raindrops are getting poured into another one, and once they exceed a certain amount of raindropness in a cloud it becomes a thundery cloud, and then it's definitely going to rain when it comes to the harvest.
There's only so much water that one cloud can take.
So it's interesting to kind of weigh up all those different things, and if you want to activate a certain thing you're going to need to start manipulate both your raindrops and also your opponent's raindrops, which is probably not what they want either.
And what's interesting in a higher player count particularly, we found, was that you're sort of almost doing this area control with the end of round voting for the different weather conditions there, and whoever wins those sections will be gaining points. But when there's that many of you playing, it can be a case of, well, oh, the blue players got 4 votes in that area already, because they do remain from round to round if they haven't been voted off. They'll only clear if they had the vote, but all remaining votes from the other sections that didn't activate stay there. So it might be that the blue player had 3 votes in wind from the previous round, and then you start this new round and it looks like everyone's going into wind because that's what they need to do, but you kind of don't want to, because you're thinking, well, how on earth am I going to get past that 3? I'm just going to be leaving my votes to not get any points from it. So then you're kind of thinking, well, I'll vote for the harvest instead because I can take a point for that, and if I actually move it to the harvest point on the dice you get 2 points. So So you kind of think, well, you know, what's the better? Shall I go in for another category just because it's not the one that they've got all their tokens in and all their votes in? Or do I just drive through for a harvest because I know it's not going to be a great time for them to have one? It's an interesting thought process.
There's a certain amount of kind of rationing your raindrops. You know, you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket or indeed all your rain in one cloud. Particularly in bigger player counts, you want to kind of get involved in all of these because only a certain amount is going to score for each time it rains. And if something's a thundercloud, you know it's definitely going to rain come the harvest. So you want to be involved in that so you can potentially get scores there. However, that being said, if you disperse yourself too much, there's kind of an area control element going on here. So if you haven't got enough presence there, your opponent has got lots, you're not going to get any points anyway, but you've used up all your raindrops and eventually getting nothing. And it's quite a quick game to play.
Oh, it really is, yeah.
It sounds quite complicated as we're talking about it, but it does quite quickly into place. And then you start, you know, working out the different layers you can play it out. But you're only playing 4 rounds, or slightly longer. There's 2 options. You can play a longer game or a shorter game. But that 4-round game, we can play in about half an hour. So it is a very quick, quite thinky game that I found really does engage people because it does look quite different and original and strange.
Yeah. I thought the player aid was really helpful because it has all of the weather conditions listed on there, so you just have a little card by you so you can remember, because that was, I think, the sort of hardest part for me, not the mechanisms or what to do and what was that. It was, okay, what do I get to do for which condition again? I kept forgetting. So just having that little player aid which you can refer back to and say, oh yeah, the rain does this, excellent, cool, yep, and make sure that the action that you're choosing to take is doing the thing that's for your benefit.
Now there is a slight danger this game could get a bit samey, a bit repetitive. There are different fields you can shuffle in, and certainly things like the coffee and the rice do have kind of more complicated actions where you eventually need to activate them twice or have a certain condition activate upon them to then score with them. So they're big points, but kind of big kind time investments, and in this quick game that's not always going to pay off. But there are expansions to this. There's many different ways you can expand this game if you really are enjoying it.
Yeah, I really like that all of those tiles activate with different conditions, and you're kind of trying to work out what ones you can use in which ways to try and sort of hedge your bets for several different tiles per harvest to try and still get points from different people. And it's interesting how it can be, I don't know, the sort of topic of it and the way it plays, you don't think that it would be that sort of take thatty, but specifically I think in the higher player count, when you're doing things which allow you to move raindrops which don't have to be your own colour, you can purposefully, knowing that there's a harvest coming, move a raindrop so that section doesn't score, and different things like that. If if that's your play style, there certainly are some inroads for you to take advantage of that kind of meaner play style that's just making sure that your opponent can't score if needed. And
there's one particular card where if you've scored the most times of that, at the end of the game you get 12 immediate points, but that only goes to one player. So again, similar to other tiles we've talked about, other fields we've talked about, do you focus on that or do you kind of hedge your bets elsewhere? And we had one player when we played it recently who was very much focused and his kind of his whole score agenda rode on him getting all of those. So he played very maliciously to keep all those clouds, using the wind in a kind of manipulating way to get those clouds out of the areas which is going to score so he could preserve his lead in there. Now it does look great. It does look fantastic on the table. The little cloud that stores away quickly, the box takes into consideration for that. But I do have a gripe with the board. We like to keep our games looking really pristine and lovely. And when I first got this out, I was concerned the board was damaged because it has kind of got this water damage effect on it, and it looks like it's been, dust blown on it.
Oh yeah, well, it's basically where they've got the artwork of the leaves over it, which I do really like, but when you are looking at it from a distance, it does look like you've got some sort of flecks of dirt on there. Yeah. Perhaps if they'd gone sort of slightly larger for the leaf, so it was a bit more prominent of what it was, then you wouldn't have that feeling. But when you do glance at it, you think, what's that? No, that's the design.
It's got wet. Of course, that's a question of taste, but it does feel slightly like, art over function, but doesn't interrupt too much of the game, and the game as a whole looks lovely.
No.
And we've really enjoyed it. It's nice to kind of play something that's so different.
Yeah, it's an interesting puzzle for sure. And as you said, those clouds and the drops and things that are in there are really nice. And I do really appreciate that you can leave the clouds built and stack them in places, and they do fit in the box made, which I think some games that have those kind of cardboard put together elements then don't fit in the box. I find that really quite irksome. But this one, they all fits in there nicely. So,
and that's perfect for it being a quick end of night game where you just get it to the table quite quickly, you can play it, and deceptively deep, I would say.
Yeah, with quite nice art. I mean, and that just the idea of it being called Petrichor, that kind of smell of once it's just rained after ages. Like, I really like the sort of romanticism of that kind of feeling. It's like almost the same as when you first smell freshly cut grass for the first time in the year. Like, it brings that same sort of feeling. Yeah,
I had no idea that's what Petrichor meant. In the same way, I didn't know with Hamlet that Hamlet was actually a little village that once had a church, and then it became a village. And obviously, Hamlet is the same designer as Petrichor, and we've been hearing a lot about Hamlet recently with both
new expansion.
Yeah, so the new expansion's available, and that's now on, I presume, back a kit. So if you are interested in both Hamlet, maybe Petrichor might be up your street, but of course, you know, On the River expansion is coming for Hamlet with the same designer, same publisher.
Yeah.
But of course, if you want to get any of these games, a good place to look is your friendly local game store, and for us in the southeast of England, that is Chaos Cards. But don't worry if you're not in the southeast of England, because they've got a fantastic website which no doubt has Petrichor and Hamlet you can buy on there. And we have a discount code below which you can use, and that'll get you a little bit of money off at till.
Yes, I think you have to spend over £35 and then you can use the discount code. But that's it for us today. We hope that you've enjoyed hearing about Petrichor. Of course, if you're not already subscribed, we would love it if you would do so. Like the video, and we'd love to hear your comments too. Have you played Petrichor? Have you played any of the other games, Hamlet, for example, by the same designer? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And as always, thanks so much for watching.
Bye.